like we always say, please, a lot of the people that watch us aren't already subscribed. So if you like what you see, please hit that
Yeah,
subscribe
let us
button.
know.
We talked about the time frame. It was coincidental, the death coming the week that his uncle's Dark Side of the Ring hit Vice TV this week. What did you think about this episode?
One of my favorite episodes, honestly. I thought it was very refreshing that, we had a Vice 2 where, for a Dark Side of the Ring, where it wasn't centered around somebody's obsession or addiction with drugs, alcohol. He didn't beat up his wife or anything like that. He
Or
loved
they
pro
didn't
wrestling.
report on any of it.
No, not that we're aware of. I mean, he did have a gambling addiction. They addressed that. He definitely had an addiction to pro wrestling. But I find the Sheik to be one of the most fascinating characters. I mean, the kayfabe level of like going to restaurants, not speaking English, acting kind of crazy and bizarre, and having people call him the Sheik in the household, or hanging up if you didn't ask for the Sheik, having a party with wrestlers, but you still kept the baby faces and the heels separate. Incredible. I just love it. I love the time period he was doing this stuff. Like, you see these old black and white matches with pro wrestling. You're usually seeing, we're trading like, wrestling moves. We're trading hammerlocks, headlocks. No, he's, he's brawling with people. He could wrestle though. You can see that too. He had an amateur wrestling background, I believe they said, an amateur boxing background, and he was a legit tough guy. The stuff that he would do to like get heat was legendary. I mean, you see like, when someone tried to shoot him and he stabbed somebody, like that story where he stabbed someone in the chest and opened him up and the guy's guts almost fell out. It's like, that's incredible. All this stuff is crazy. I love the story about him as a promoter and how he had his best friend kind of as the figurehead, and his wife was doing everything behind the scenes.
His father-in-law was actually the figurehead of the company.
Father-in-law?
His wife worked closely with him behind the scenes.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, it's his father. Yeah, and I like that. I loved all the, the Jim Cornette talking about he made, I think, $400,000 that he claimed he made that year on paper, that he probably made more. And it was like the equivalent of $2 million at the time. And, it's just very interesting. And, to see how much his grandkids loved him, despite the fact that like all this craziness was going on, and they still felt like the center of attention and they loved him. And to hear Sabu, who's now passed away, get emotional talking about his uncle and everything he did for him. And then to hear about that fire match where he didn't know Anita spoke English, and Anita says to him, "I think we're in trouble." That whole series. Yeah, you have to just watch this. If you haven't seen this, even if you don't this is just a great documentary to watch. I'm absolutely very interested in the Sheik. And this made me, I'm going to make some homework for myself here. I'm not going to probably do this next week. I'll tell you that right now, guys. But I am interested in seeing more matches with the Sheik. Like, I just find him to be such a unique character. And, the way he ended his career, I remember that moment, too, where it was Sabu and Mr. JL, Jerry Lynn. And I did not know Sheik had a broken leg. And he still gets up, walks around, and throws the damn fireball. Like, insane.
I'm going to say episode 300, 2 weeks away. Maybe we'll get some Sheik matches in.
Hell yeah.
And I really like this Dark Side of the Ring. They covered a lot. And there are going to be a couple things I'm going to bring up because I believe I heard these from Brian Solomon's book. I'm going to say allegedly because I'm not meaning any disrespect to the Sheik. In Brian Solomon's book, in this episode, they talked about how close he was with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, I believe there was allusions made to affairs. And I thought that would have been something to bring up during this, that his wife stuck with him even through like affairs. And I believe there was drinking and drugs at one point. So it's interesting sometimes to see the choices that they don't include. It's probably out of respect. And with Brian Solomon's book, it was such a deep dive.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to have read the book a while ago when it came out, and then to see what's covered in this Dark Side of the Ring. And this is a guy that's been one of these huge figures in pro wrestling that you don't get a lot of this behind the scenes from, because by his design, he was so good at kayfabing and keeping it behind. But it was really cool to see Sabu talking about his uncle, and it kind of hit in a different way since we lost Sabu this week.
Yeah. Have you, I can tell you off the top of my head, and obviously I've seen it through tapes, but I saw 2 matches with the Sheik that stick out of my head. One was Bobo Brazil at Cobo Hall. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, 3. Mark Lewin I saw one with him, and then another one I saw him throw a fireball and pin Andre the Giant.
Oh, wow. I have not seen any Sheik matches outside of what they showed in here. I mean, I might have seen that fire match at one point
Yeah,
because
I never seen that.
um, I'm very interested in Onita's FMW. I have, I believe, a couple of their shows on one of my hard drives. And that was a match that when you hear about it, it sounds so wild. And then
Yeah.
to see it, especially Kawasaki Stadium for extreme Japanese wrestling, that's the place to be. And isn't it interesting that Sabu kind of followed his Sheik in the Sheik's footsteps of staying in the ring just till the end, almost kind of beyond when their body could handle it.
Mhm.
It's interesting the parallels you could see from looking back at Sabu's career given his death and then what they cover in this documentary.